My House of Horrors Chapter 261 to 270. Okay. Don't worry. Gu Feiyu had no idea why Chen Ge wanted to enter the haunted house and block the exit. He grumbled internally, is he trying to kill the visitors? After sending Chen Ge underground, Xiao Jiyu obediently closed the wooden boards and moved the props to cover them. Yang Cheng and Wei Wu's team chose the left path, and after walking for half a distance, another fork appeared before them. This is the second fork. The path on the left leads to a deep well, and the path on the right leads to 3 empty rooms. Yang Cheng flipped through the notebook that she was holding. It had detailed descriptions of every scenario. To be able to remember it so clearly, it showed how much despair her seniors had experienced. Everything was still fresh in her mind when they returned to school. The 3 rooms have their own numbers, and one of them has a female body hidden in the ceiling of the bathroom. Based on the senior's record, there is a name tag inside her pocket. Quote. Listening to Yang Cheng's description, Li Shui and Wang Yan frowned. Just listening to it made them unwilling to get close. We'll go get this name tag. Kong Shangming, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. Wei Wu wanted to say something, but he stopped him with a look. Okay. Then we'll guard the door for you. The notebook did mention that when the visitors enter the empty room, there might be mannequins coming to harass them. Quote. There's no need. Isn't there a time limit? You guys go to the other path first, and we'll find you later. Kong Shangming left after saying that. Wei Wu followed behind him, and the two were calm throughout. Oh, Yang, let's go as well. Wang Yan pointed at the path that led to the deep well and whispered, it's better if we split up. We don't want them to drag us down. The notebook said not to split up, but the situation was different now. The 2 visitors were probably haunted house workers in disguise. Yang Cheng nodded, and the 3 of them trotted to the side of the well. Just as described in the notebook, there were 2 name tags in the well. 2 name tags at once. It seems like Senior was right. This well is indeed very dangerous. Li Shui took out a ball of string from her purse and removed the hairpin from her head. She tied it to the end of the string. Thankfully, we came prepared. The boss probably didn't expect this either. This was the first time the 3 students felt so happy since they entered the haunted house. It was as if they had won a mental battle against the evil boss. Li Shui stuck the ball of string into the well and easily hooked onto one of the nameplates. She slowly pulled it up. When the nameplate was pulled out of the well, the group looked as if they had stayed up all night and finally obtained an exquisite piece of equipment. Well done. When Li Shui extended the thread out of the well again, she was surprised to find that the well seemed to have become deeper. She tried several times before she finally managed to hook another name tag. However, when she tried to pull it back, a scary scene appeared in the well. The sand slid to the sides, and a dead face appeared. The top half of the name tag was exposed outside the sand, and the bottom half was held in the dead face's mouth. What the F***ck? Why is he playing so hard? The 3 students leaned against the well, and this was the first time they experienced the malice of the adult world. Xiao Shui, try harder. See if you can pull the name tag out. The slightly plump girl slowly pulled on the string. The sand slid, and the dead body slowly revealed itself. Bang! After several tries, the string finally snapped. The name tag was not pulled out, and the girl's hairpin was still hanging by the mannequin's mouth. This won't do. The boss really doesn't give us any leeway. Li Shui looked at her hairpin, and her heart ached. You 2 stay outside. I'll go down and grab the hairpin and name tag. Wang Yan was more impulsive. It's just a doll that looks like a dead person. I've seen real dead people before. Quote. You've seen dead people before, but have you seen a moving dead person before? Yang Cheng stopped Wang Yan. This place is marked as a dangerous area by the senior. Don't go into danger so easily. It's just a name tag. Even without this one, we can still find other name tags. We can't be blinded by the small profits before us. Quote. I'll listen to you. Wang Yan was impulsive, but he was not dumb. How about we let the 2 actors go down? If they're actors, they won't go down if they know the well is dangerous. If they're just normal visitors, it's not a good idea to trick them like this, Li Shui advised. There's still time. We haven't seen the couple along the way, so they might have gone to the other side. Let's find them first. Yang Cheng looked at the map. We can go around the well. That place is the female dormitory. Yang Cheng ran to the end of the well with the map, but the female dormitory did not appear. Instead, there was another junction. Is the map wrong? Yang Cheng turned the map around to look at it again. How can there be a new path here? Have we triggered a hidden scenario? Does Mr. Chen's haunted house have this kind of gameplay? Quote. The three students looked at each other. The map that they relied on had completely lost its effect. No wonder there are so few name tags in the previous scenarios. Looks like some of the name tags have been placed inside the hidden scenario. Yang Cheng tore out a piece of paper from her notebook and used a pen to draw a few lines. Come, let's go in and take a look. Even if we can't clear the scenario today, we need to perfect the map for the students who come later. The three students thought that they had triggered a hidden scenario, and they became the first batch of visitors to enter Western Zhujiang Private Academy. After turning a corner, the architectural style of the two sides changed. There were no signs of fire on the walls, and it felt more real and immersive. "Oh, Yang, do you smell something rotten?" Wang Yan stopped at the corner and pinched his nose. "It's a weird smell, like something has gone moldy." Kong Shangming stood outside the room of 3 scenario and was silent. "Why did you come here to avoid the 3 students?" Wei Wu was confused. "Look at the door. Doesn't it look like the door at Haiming Apartments?" Kong Shangming pulled open the door. The interior was similar to Haiming Apartments. "You're right. How can there be such a coincidence?" Wei Wu was surprised as well. "A few days ago, we went to Haiming Apartments to capture the man who ran away, and today, we saw the same layout inside the haunted house." Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. I think I understand why the chairperson wants to deal with him now. This man has probably entered the world behind the door, and he might even own a door himself. Kong Shangming kept his voice low, afraid that a third person might overhear him. "It doesn't matter. So what if he has been to the world behind the door? At the end of the day, he is just one person." When Wei Wu said that, he sounded like he was trying to console himself. "This mission is so important. The chairperson wouldn't have sent just the 2 of us. The other members should have arrived already. Don't place your hope on others. What if the chairperson just wants to sacrifice us to scout the path ahead?" Kong Shangming closed the door. The members might change at any time, but the number remains the same. Each number represents a monster behind the door. With this number, you will be able to live in a symbiotic relationship with the monster that corresponds to that number. Therefore, in the chairperson's eyes, the thing he really cares about is the monster on us and not us. Quote. He narrowed his eyes and suddenly brought up something that was not that related. "The Society of Strange Tales forbids us from revealing our own identity and investigating other people's identity. These 2 rules can indeed protect our own safety. After all, the members of the society are either insane or bloody butchers, but have you considered another problem?" "What problem?" "If we don't interact with the other members, we will never know who the chairperson is." Kong Shangming was deep in thought. Everyone knows that the chairperson is hiding among the 10 people at the table, but no one knows who the chairperson really is. Now I suspect that the chairperson himself is a monster behind the door, and in his eyes, we are nothing more than a container to contain the monster. Quote. Why are you telling me this? Wei Wu pulled away from Kong Shangming. No one has ever betrayed the Society of Strange Tales, and that is the scariest thing. Do you understand what I mean? Kong Shangming waved his hands. You and I joined the society at the same time, so I can confirm that you are not the chairperson. That is why I approached you during the last mission and told you my identity. In the society, you are the only one I can trust. Wei Wu always felt that Kong Shangming had other plans, and he had unknowingly boarded the pirate ship. All the monsters escaped from the world behind the door. There's no doubt that the guild leader is in control of a door. Kong Shangming paused and revealed a faint smile. Owning the door means that you have the right to set the rules. Don't you want to be the president? You're crazy. I'm not crazy, but I don't have any more ghost stories to tell you. If I don't change the rules, perhaps at the next gathering, I'll be placed on your plate, turning from a customer to food. Kong Xiangming's words woke Wei Wu up like a bucket of cold water. The Society of Strange Tales was not a place for charity. Even its members were afraid of it. Tell me your plan. If it was in the past, I wouldn't have done such a risky thing, but recently I found an opportunity. The guild master is contacting us more and more frequently. He's in big trouble, and at the same time, he's revealed a flaw. Quote, "What flaw?" The guild master communicates with us through the ghosts that reside in our bodies, and the ghosts can only communicate with each other within 50 meters. I've tested this with you before. Kong Xiangming got to the key point. In other words, when the guild master sent the message, he was within 50 meters of me. That's right. During the gathering, I was very close to No. 10. Whenever I sat next to him, the ghost on my body would show a strange emotion. There was a trace of desire hidden in the fear. I could feel its thoughts. It wanted to eat No. 10. But that doesn't mean number 10 is the guild master. The ghosts on the 10 of us are different. I know, but several seconds before my ghost received the guild master's message, it also showed this strange emotion. Kong Xiangming's voice slowly changed. When the message was sent, number 10 and the guild master appeared near my home at the same time. Isn't that enough to prove their relationship? Could it be a coincidence? The guild master should be the one who gave us the flyers, and he's the only one who knows the identity of all the members. 2 consecutive messages, and both number 10 and the guild master appeared near my home. I don't believe there's such a coincidence in the world. Quote, after Kong Xiangming said that, Wei Wu was completely silent. The mysterious guild master was like a sharp sword hanging above all the members' heads. Number 10 is the guild master. Then how do you want to cooperate with me? Wei Wu and Kong Xiangming were working together because they shared a common goal. If not for the common goal, they would have fought to the death because they knew each other's identity. The guild master wants to target the haunted house's boss, and this haunted house's boss is obviously a vicious character. Let them fight until both of them are injured, and then we'll look for an opportunity. Kong Xiangming entered the bathroom and pulled down the woman's body from the ceiling. He found a name tag in her pocket. We're just visitors. Just be careful not to be discovered by the haunted house's boss. The two left the room with the name tag. 1 or 2 minutes later, there was a grumbling sound inside the room, and a mannequin's head rolled out from under the bed. The 3 medical students huddled together. Without the map, they finally experienced the joy of visiting a haunted house. Li Shui, slow down. The chubby girl with a baby face walked ahead, and the 2 male students followed closely behind. They leaned against each other, and the only thing missing was their arms. When we were outside, you 2 were so good at bragging. How come you've become so cowardly after losing the senior's guide? Li Shui turned back to look at her 2 friends, and she sighed. Are you 2 men or not? What does that have to do with being a man or not? Even though Wang Yan was hiding at the back, he did not hide his temper. We're just being cautious. Can't you see that we're covering for you? Ha ha. Yang Chen felt rather awkward as well. It's not that I'm afraid, it's just that this place is too similar to my high school. It's obvious that the setting earlier was purposely set up, but this new setting feels like I'm back at my old school. What's so scary about returning to your old school? Li Shui did not quite understand. It's different from real life. I can keep telling myself in my heart that everything is fake, but this place is almost exactly the same as the school in real life. No matter how I try to tell myself, I can't help but be immersed in it. Yang Chen's phone was still holding onto a notebook and a pen. He was trembling as he drew the route map. Due to some reason, Western Zhujiang's private academy had most of its scenarios cut down, so the overall size was not that big. The 3 students soon reached the end of the corridor, and before them was a normal glass door. Wait a minute. Yang Cheng stopped Li Shui, who was about to open the door. He leaned against the door and pressed his face against the glass to look inside. This looks like one of the floors of the dormitory, and there's a number on the door. Could this be the female dormitory on the map? Li Shui urged Yang Cheng to open the map, and she realized that the location was very different. It should be a hidden scenario. Yang Cheng seemed to have the answer. When I first got the map, I was wondering why there was only a female dormitory on the map and not a male dormitory. Now it looks like the male dormitory has been made into a hidden scenario. But I'm curious, how did we trigger this hidden scenario? No one seems to have done anything special. Quote, "It's probably because we were too fast, and it gave the boss a sense of danger." Wang Yan laughed dryly and leaned against the glass door to look. "It's similar to our school's dormitory. Let's go in and take a look." He said that, but his body did not move. In the end, it was Li Shui who pushed the glass door open. The rusted chains slid to the ground, and as the glass door opened, a strange smell drifted out from behind it. "How come it smells like a corpse? Should we go in or not?" To be honest, the fact that we've come this far and discovered the hidden scenario already means that we've broken the senior's record. Wang Yan raised his hand. "I suggest we retreat. I wonder if we'll be able to trigger the hidden scenario next time. Furthermore, we've already come this far. If we don't go in to take a look, will you?" Yang Cheng and Li Shui carried Wang Yan down the corridor. The dark corridor had half-open doors on both sides, and it was unclear which room the stench was coming from. "Isn't this place a little too depressing?" Wang Yan's voice lowered like he might wake up some hidden monsters if he spoke too loudly. "There's still enough time. Don't miss the rooms on both sides. This place will definitely hide many name tags." Yang Cheng walked at the front with Li Shui. Wang Yan followed behind them unwillingly. He was panicking, and he did not dare leave alone, so he moved forward with the rest. "Don't be too afraid. The scariest scenario will be at the back. The first few rooms should be safe." Yang Cheng tried to use his own experience to console Wang Yan. What kind of haunted house would show us the scariest scenario at the start? Then he pushed open the door to the first bedroom on the left side of the corridor. The wooden door was covered in dust, as if it hadn't been opened for a long time. Accompanied by the ear-piercing sound of the hinges turning, Yang Chen walked in. However, he only took one step before he abruptly stopped, his upper body still maintaining a forward posture. "Oh, Yang, what's wrong?" Quote, the door opened fully, and Li Shui and Wang Yan sucked in a cold breath. There was a person hanging in the middle of the room. A mannequin. Yang Cheng was the first to recover. He wiped his hands on his shirt to wipe away the cold sweat on his palms. "Don't go there yet." Wang Yan pointed at the man's feet. "It doesn't look like he's hanging. Look, his feet are still on the ground. I suspect he's a haunted house worker. It shouldn't be a living person." Li Shui was braver and walked over directly. "The rope is pulled taut. If he's kept in this position for too long, he'll be strangled to death." She carefully walked to the other side of the room. The man hanging in the middle of the room was wearing a black coat. His head was lowered, and his face could not be seen clearly. Li Shui raised her hand and slowly moved closer. Her fingertip touched the dead man's skin. "It's not human skin. Come in, it's fine." There was a long sigh of relief. All three of them had been given quite a fright. What's the meaning of hanging a mannequin in the middle of the room? And purposely making it stand on the ground? Wang Yan touched the dead man's hand. He was a forensic student, so he knew that the feeling was different from human skin. It was colder and stiffer. "Don't move. This dead man might be the answer to a puzzle." Li Shui held the dead man's chin with both of her hands and slowly lifted its head up. When they saw the dead man's face, the three new students panicked. It was too real. It was because they had seen a real dead body before that the three of them felt a sense of fear that was stronger than a normal person. The rope is pressing on the front of the neck, forcing the tongue to move upward and back. It's stuck to the pharyngeal wall, blocking the pharyngeal cavity. The cause of death is probably asphyxiation. When Li Shui said that, even she was shocked. She really did not expect that her first time using knowledge from the textbook would be inside a haunted house. Pay attention to the mannequin's face. There are irregular blood spots. That's different from death caused by asphyxiation. Yang Cheng walked around the mannequin. The carotid artery is blocked, and the blood flow is blocked. The cause of death should be cerebral anemia. Guys, no matter what the cause of death is, we need to leave. Wang Yan urged. "Aren't you too afraid?" There's a mannequin inside a haunted house that not only looks exactly like a dead person, but even the cause of death has been perfectly replicated. Quote. The boss of a haunted house also knows forensic science. Li Shui glanced at Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng's expression was not so good. An outsider wouldn't be able to recreate the characteristics of a dead body in such detail, unless he did it bit by bit on a real dead body. A scary picture appeared in the three's mind. They did not say anything else and walked out of the bedroom. We're already very deep. How about we stop now? Let's search a few more rooms. By the way, was there a name tag in the room earlier? Yang Cheng asked. Li Shui and Wang Yan both shook their heads. We didn't notice. Oh well, let's search the other rooms first before entering this room. The three students were conversing outside the door. They did not know that the dead body inside the room that was facing away from them had slowly opened its eyes. There was a fork in the corridor, and the deeper they went, the heavier the stench became. Stains started to appear on the walls and the floor. The three students reached the end of the corridor, and the rooms near the end were all locked. The stench seems to be coming from here. Li Shui walked ahead and pushed open the door to the room at the end of the corridor. There were 4 beds in this bedroom, but only one of them was covered in a mattress. The other 3 were covered in various kinds of trash. That's it. I thought something scary was hidden inside this room, but it's not as scary as the first bedroom. Quote. It's almost time. We need to find the name tag first. Wang Yan, stop spacing out and come help. Yang Cheng and Li Shui entered the room, but Wang Yan stared down the long corridor. Something was bouncing up and down in the darkness. Yang Cheng and Li Shui hurried out. The 3 stood in the corridor and looked down the corridor. It was dark, and they could not see anything. Where are the footsteps? I really heard it. It sounds like someone is jumping down the corridor. Quote. Don't scare yourself. Come and help me. Li Shui dragged Wang Yan into the last room. Yang Cheng stayed outside for a while, and she repeated what Wang Yan had said. Jumping. The 3 started to rummage through the last room. The trash on the bed was mostly props made from sponges and wooden blocks. They looked dirty, but they did not give off a weird smell. As this dormitory used to store trash, Li Shui used her sleeve to cover her nose. But why is there a mattress on the innermost bed? Who would want to stay in such a dirty environment? Quote. Now is not the time to consider who will stay here. Yang Cheng picked up the trash model from the bed and sniffed it. When we entered the hidden scenario, we smelled the stench, and this room has the thickest smell. In other words, the thing that gives off the stench is in this room. Only by finding the thing can we unlock the secret of this scenario. I think Yang has a point. There is trash everywhere in the room, but it is not the trash that gives off the stench. That's weird. Wang Yan walked to the only bed with a mattress. This bed has no trash, but the smell is the thickest. He grabbed the corner of the mattress and pulled it back with gritted teeth. There was nothing scary under the tattered mattress, just a notebook. Flipping it open, Wang Yan glanced through it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have gotten so close to you. I just wanted to help you pick up the ball. Sir, I didn't mean to wet my clothes. No one is playing tricks on me. It's my fault. Dad, I will try my best. Please, don't hit me anymore. I'm sorry. I don't know why I make people feel disgusted when I smile. It won't happen again. What do you think is wrong with me? I can change. I can change anything. I really just want to be like them. I'm sorry. The notebook was not thick, and it was filled with apologies. It looked a little depressing. Is there something wrong with your brain? Apologize for what? If he's being bullied, he'll just **ck him up. Wang Yan was an impatient person. He curled his lips and disagreed with the notebook's owner's actions. Come and look at this. Li Shui found some shredded photos in the dormitory's trash can. She picked out a few, and after piecing them together, she could barely make out the people in the photos. They should be father and son. The child was seriously obese, and it could be seen that he had an inferiority complex. He seemed to be afraid of the camera, so he hid behind his father. His father, on the other hand, had a very bad temper. His face was full of anger, and he was very rough with him. He grabbed him by the neck with one hand and forcefully dragged him out from behind. "Is this a stepfather?" Wang Yan opened the notebook and showed it to the other two. The first few pages were normal, but the more they read, the more upset they felt. The boy did not have a name, and his classmates called him Pig. His father was one of the investors of Western Zhejiang Private Academy. His family was very rich, but his father was very strict with him. The notebook did not explain the reason, but reading between the lines, the boy's mother appeared to have betrayed his father, and the child's birth was a mistake. The boy longed for his father's praise, but no matter what he did, no matter how obedient he was, the response was always violence and scolding. He lived carefully, and his body would only feel a sense of satisfaction when he was eating. However, the endless eating, using eating as a way to reduce stress, caused the boy to be seriously overweight at a very young age. Seeing the boy's ugly appearance, his father did not worry. If anything, he felt the joy of revenge. The boy, who did not know anything, only felt his father's happiness, so he started to eat even harder. When he slowly grew up, both his body and mind were damaged. At school, the boy was weak and self-abased, and no one was willing to sit with him. When he returned home, he would face his father's beatings if things did not go his way. Slowly, the boy's psychological problems appeared. Things that other people thought were beautiful would become extremely ugly in his eyes. Things that other people hated and avoided, he treasured like a treasure. The boy would often do ridiculous things, like stealing other people's leftovers from the cafeteria and picking out dirty and smelly things from the trash to bring home. His father would beat him up every time, but the boy seemed to have lost control. His worldview was completely turned upside down. This happened a few times, and one time, his father beat the boy so hard that he was sent to the hospital. This incident alerted the police. In the end, with the police's education and persuasion, the boy's father agreed to let the boy move into the school's dormitory. The boy's father was the investor of Western Zhejiang Private School, so the school agreed without hesitation and prepared a single room for the boy. After moving into the dormitory, the boy had to interact with other students. He had to apologize more often every day, and at the same time, his illness worsened. Not long after, the other dormitories near the boy's room all smelled the stench. The school followed the smell and pried open the door to the boy's room. When they opened the door, they were all dumbfounded. The originally clean dormitory was filled with all kinds of trash, and the dirty and smelly trash became the most beautiful decoration in the boy's eyes. The school hired people to throw away all the trash, punish the boy, and notify his parents. The boy's father had always been rough with his upbringing, beating and kicking. The notebook recorded the events of that night in detail. His father had beaten him until late at night before leaving. No matter how painful life was, life went on. Every time the physical wounds healed, the boy's mental illness would worsen. The stench filled the corridor again, and the school could not do anything about it. The boy's father was the investor of the school, and it was not appropriate to expel his son. After cleaning the room several times, the boy did not change much. The school had no choice but to empty the few dormitories near the boy's room and hire someone to clean his room regularly. As time passed, the stench in the room could not be removed, and it seemed to have seeped into the walls and floor tiles. At the time, Western Zhejiang Private School was so busy with the female dormitory building that the school did not pay attention to the boy anymore. The boy, who had completely lost his mind, kept moving the trash back to his room, and the stench thickened. After flipping through the notes, the 3 medical students from the medical university had different thoughts in their minds. Helping an outsider to bully his own child, he doesn't deserve to be a father. Li Shui looked angry. Even though she knew that this was probably the background story of the haunted house, she still felt like it was unfair for the boy. This boy is too much of a coward. If it were me, I would return double the bully to whoever bullied me. Wang Yan swung his fists. I feel like the boy is not only not a coward, he's very scary. Yang Cheng flipped through the notes. Did you notice that the boy's diary for the last few months was filled with apologizing to his father? Doesn't that prove that he's a coward? Lowering his head to the killer. Quote, the boy apologized to many different people every day, but at one point, the only thing left in the notes was his apology to his father. Li Shui also noticed that something was wrong. Why would he keep apologizing to his father? It depends on the time. Yang Cheng flipped through the notes. The latter half was filled with remorse and apology to his father. He flipped through more than 20 pages, and the content of the notes finally changed. The boy's apology to his father started from the night his parents were called and his father beat him until midnight. Yang Cheng held the notes and stood in the middle of the dormitory to think. The notes are very clear. The father locked the bedroom door from the inside to prevent anyone from getting close. He even used the bedsheet to gag the boy's mouth. That is so cruel. Li Shui pitied the boy from the bottom of her heart. You have to think about this. The notes are written by the boy, and he will only show us what he wants to express. Yang Chen closed the notebook in his hand. The entire notebook is filled with apologies and apologies. But think about it. How can a madman who has his worldview turned upside down and sees the ugly and filthy as the beautiful and pure, be repentance? He sat on the bed that emitted the stench, and he seemed to have entered the role of the boy. My classmates hated him, and they trampled on his kindness. They felt disgusted just by looking at his face. When I returned home, my only family saw him as their enemy. This child's life is full of evil words and violence, so he can only bury his true self in the bottom of his heart and put on an apologetic mask to protect himself. Quote, "Oh, Yang, what are you trying to say?" Wang Yan and Li Shui both noticed that Yang Cheng's emotions were not quite right. I experienced domestic violence when I was young, but luckily, I had a strong and smart older brother. Yang Cheng sat on the smelly bed. I have experienced the same pain, so I can roughly guess the child's real thoughts. With an indescribable emotion in her eyes, Yang Cheng picked up the trash model from the ground. The design of this haunted house is truly amazing. Everything feels like it has happened before. Why don't you tell us? What are you sighing about? Wang Yan followed Yang Cheng's example and picked up a trash item, but he couldn't see anything unusual about it. The haunted house boss gave us a hint when we entered the door. Yang Cheng sniffed the trash model. The trash inside the house doesn't have any smell, but the stench is always there. Didn't we already know that? Then think about it. Why would the boy keep picking up trash inside the dormitory? Yang Cheng had guessed the truth, but he did not feel any joy from solving the puzzle. If anything, he felt uncomfortable. Because the boy has a mental illness, didn't the notebook say that? He has been sick since a long time ago, and his worldview has collapsed. He sees ugly things as beautiful. Quote, wrong. The real answer is actually very simple. Yang Cheng picked up the trash model. In real life, trash will give off a stench. In real life, the boy wants to use the stench of trash to cover up the real stench. That's why he keeps bringing trash back to the dormitory. Standing up, Yang Cheng scanned the room. What do you think will give off a stench? And this stench can't be smelled by others, right? Quote, Wang Yan and Li Shui shared a look. They were both forensic students, and at that moment, the same term appeared in their minds at the same time. Cadaveric odor. From that night onwards, the notebook turned into an apology to his father. I'm curious what he has done to his father and why he has to keep apologizing in repentance. Yang Cheng had the answer in his heart. He stood before the only locked closet and reached out to grab the lock. The rust peeled off. The lock inside the haunted house was just a prop. With a bit of force, he pulled the lock off. The door opened, and the foul odor hit their nostrils. In the middle of the closet stood a dead body wrapped in plastic wrap. The face was twisted, and the eyes bulged out. The man died a horrible death. The three medical students stopped before the closet and looked at the dead body props. None of them spoke. The shock and fear intertwined in their hearts, and even breathing became difficult. This should be the answer. When the boy started to pick up trash, he probably already had this plan in mind. Since the day of the incident, the boy's notebook had been an apology every day. It lasted for more than 10 pages before it stopped. It was hard to imagine how he managed to stay with a dead body inside this room that reeked of foul odor for so long. This has been going on for so long without being discovered. That is the saddest part. Even after he hid the culprit inside the closet, the boy's life did not change. No one cared about him, and no one cared about him. Quote. Yang Cheng closed the closet door and locked it. To be able to design a scenario like this, I have nothing but respect for Mr. Chen. His haunted house is not just for scaring people. He is indeed impressive. Li Shui's tightened fist slowly loosened, and her heart was unable to calm down. Stop sighing. It has been more than 20 minutes already. We'd better get out of here. Wang Yan was reminded of the dead body props wrapped in plastic wrap inside the closet, and his heart fluttered. The dead body props at his haunted house are scarier than the real thing. Let's go. Yang Cheng was the first to turn. When he reached the door, he suddenly stopped. Have you guys noticed that the stench in this place has thickened? Is it because we opened the closet door? Li Shui followed behind Yang Cheng. Don't overthink it. We've failed this challenge, but we'll try again next time. The three exited the dormitory. When they walked back, they saw a person standing not far away from them. The person had his head lowered to face them, and there was a rope dangling from his neck. Isn't this the mannequin from the first dormitory? Why has it come out? Quote. Wang Yan turned to look at his friends and realized that Li Shui and Yang Cheng were also filled with fear. The stench in the air continued to thicken. Just as the three students were hesitating, the lock on the closet slowly loosened and fell to the ground. Creak. The stench in the corridor thickened. The three students were squeezed together, and their attention was focused on the mannequin in the middle of the corridor. They did not hear the strange sound coming from the dormitory behind them. How about we retreat back to the dormitory? Yang Cheng's suggestion was more conservative. He had no idea why he would be afraid of a mannequin. Since we've already given up on the tour, there's no need for us to force ourselves. Wang Yan decided to give up. We'll just find the surveillance and have the workers lead us out. I looked around when we arrived. This hidden scenario doesn't seem to have any surveillance, Li Shui whispered, looking at the mannequin in the middle of the corridor. Xiao Shui, why didn't you tell us something as important as that? Wang Dan was able to maintain his composure because he knew that if the visitors wanted to give up during their visit, they only needed to yell at the camera or make a specific gesture, and the workers would lead the visitors out of the haunted house. Since he could leave at any time, he was not afraid. You didn't ask. Li Shui rolled her eyes at Wang Yan. Don't worry, a professional haunted house like Mr. Chen's will have surveillance, but it should be the kind that's hard to detect so that it won't ruin the atmosphere. It's not about the atmosphere anymore, okay. Wang Yan squeezed beside Yang Cheng. The mannequin appeared in the middle of the corridor, so it must have followed us out. This is weird. Yang Cheng frowned. The stench inside the haunted house thickened, and the anxiety in his heart increased. Based on the description in the notebook, the boy who was abused by his father was fat, but the person who hanged himself in the first room was very thin. What's the point of analyzing at a time like this? Wang Yan was an impatient person. He grumbled and urged, how about the three of us rush out together? The mannequin only has 2 arms, so it won't be able to stop us. Stop arguing. Yang Cheng shrugged off Wang Yan's arm. The abused boy is fat, and that doesn't match the size of the mannequin. This means that there's another theme to this hidden scenario. The whole scenario is made up of 2 stories. Quote. 2. In other words, there's another monster that hasn't appeared yet, right? Li Shui quickly understood what Yang Cheng meant. She looked behind her thoughtfully. When her gaze shifted to the dormitory not far from them, her eyes slowly widened, and her face instantly paled. Xiao Shui, what happened to you? Quote. Li Shui seemed to have temporarily lost her ability to speak. A gust of air was stuck in her throat, and it took 2 seconds for it to be released. Behind us, Yang Cheng and Wang Yan turned at the same time. The dead body wrapped in plastic wrap stood at the bedroom door. Its body was twisted and contorted like it was trying to break free from the plastic wrap. What was even more terrifying was that the corpse was shrouded in a putrid black smoke, which eventually turned into a meatball-like shadow. What the hell is this? Wang Yan hid at the back of the group. He was closest to the dead body inside the plastic wrap. When he turned around, his face was only half a step away from the dead body's face. He did not expect there to be something like this behind him. Before he could turn around, his limbs were already moving forward. After he was 1 meter away, he screamed. Run! Yang Cheng and Li Shui recovered from their shock. They followed closely behind Wang Yan. They ran madly, but the thing that would make them more desperate was to come. On the other side of the corridor, the hanging mannequin suddenly raised its head to reveal its purplish face that was covered in dried blood spots. It used a speed that was faster than the three students. With both feet on the ground, it leapt toward the three students. What the f***ck? Wang Yan, who had just run from the back of the group to the front, saw the hanging mannequin charging at him, and his face turned green. There was a tiger behind him and a wolf in front of him. He was scared to death, but he did not dare stop. Wang Yan felt like he had used all the courage he had in his life at that moment. He closed his eyes, gritted his teeth, and slammed his head into the mannequin. Bang! The jumping mannequin was knocked to the corner. Wang Yan, who was running at the front, screamed as he covered his head and continued to run. With him leading the way, Yang Cheng and Li Shui passed the mannequin without a hitch. However, there was a small detail that the two students did not notice. After the mannequin fell, its lips cracked into a creepy smile. The rope around its neck extended toward Li Shui's ankle. Just as it was about to wrap around Li Shui's ankle, the mannequin seemed to be reminded of some scary memory, and it pulled the rope back. "They're still chasing us." The commotion caused by the three of them was so loud that all the visitors in the scenario could hear them clearly. The three scrambled out of Western Zhejiang's private academy. Shock, excitement, and strenuous exercise made the three students feel like they had just taken a spin in hell. "I really can't run anymore." Li Shui's stamina was not that good. Her face was pale, and she took in deep breaths. Her forehead was covered in cold sweat. "Let's take a break." We'll all take a break." Yang Cheng was also out of breath. He supported Li Shui away from the exit of Western Zhejiang's private academy and hurried to check on Wang Yan's condition. When they were running earlier, Yang Cheng saw clearly that Wang Yan had knocked over the mannequin that was blocking their way. "Wang Yan, are you all right?" Wang Yan, who had always been loud and blunt, would not admit it even if he was afraid. He was squatting on the ground with both of his hands holding his head. He gritted his teeth to stop the tears from falling. "Wang Yan, don't scare me." Quote, "OL, Yang, I feel like I'm dying." Wang Yan held his head. The hot-tempered man's voice was laced with tears. "The mannequin is solid. It's too f***king scary. I don't want to play anymore. Let's call the police. I don't want to play anymore. I'm leaving now." Yang Cheng was also scared. He tried to help Wang Yan up, but he failed several times. Wang Yan's body was weak, and his legs were like jelly. "Let's find the camera to get the workers to save us. I think I've figured out this haunted house's scheme. The scariest part will come later. These scary scenarios are just to make us lower our guard." Li Shui had given up on struggling. She did not dare stay outside the hidden scenario alone. She panted as she walked to the two male students. "With our current condition, it will be impossible for us to leave this place normally. I remember there is a camera at every junction. Wait here, I'll go get help." Yang Cheng was about to leave when Wei Wu and Kong Xiongming walked over. Chen Ge, who was wearing the doctor's uniform and holding the hammer, stopped at the first junction. This time, he did not enter the haunted house to save the visitors but to use the haunted house's enclosed environment to capture the two people who were suspected to be from the Society of Strange Tales. Where did they run off to? Standing at the junction quietly, Chen Ge perked up his ears to listen. Soon, a sound came from the corridor that led to the well. Gulp, gulp, a human head rolled out on its own like it was being pushed by some kind of force. "It's running around again." Chen Ge walked toward the head. He thought that the head had rolled out to ask for help because it could not find its body. However, before he got close, the head started to roll in another direction. It was moving at a speed that was just enough for Chen Ge to follow. "It's leading the way." Chen Ge followed behind the head without hesitation. The chilling wind blew at the doctor's uniform. Chen Ge, who was wearing the human skin mask and holding the red hammer, chased after the rolling head and slowly entered the deeper part of the haunted house. When Yang Cheng saw Wei Wu and Kong Xiongming, his heart was filled with joy. From how he saw it, be it the visitors or the workers, it would only benefit them. You just came out from that place. Wei Wu glanced at the three students, and his voice was cold. He felt threatened, so he did not plan to continue his disguise. Yes, Yang Cheng wanted to ask Wei Wu for help, but he realized that there was something wrong with Wei Wu's attitude. He gave off an uncomfortable feeling, not like someone who worked in the service industry. What did you run into in that scenario? Why do you look so disheveled? Kong Xiangming also walked over. The two's attitude confused the three students. They had thought that Wei Wu and Kong Xiangming were workers at the haunted house, but the two's reaction caused them to waver. Do these two really not know the layout of the haunted house, or are they purposely toying with us? Before the students could come up with an answer, Wei Wu and Kong Xiangming reacted strangely. They suddenly turned around and stared at the glass door of Western Zhujiang's private academy in unison. What are you looking at? Yang Cheng was a little uneasy. He retreated to his companions, sighed. The situation had become a little complicated. About a second or two later, the glass door of Western Zhujiang Private Academy opened for no reason, and a faint, strange smell wafted out. Other than those mannequins, I'm surprised there are other ghosts trapped inside this haunted house. Wei Wu's voice was very low. If it wasn't necessary, they would never reveal their identities to outsiders. The one on me has already woken up. It's a little hungry. Kong Xiangming appeared to be calmer. He put his hands on his shoulders, and then a skinny head popped out from his back. Are you crazy? There are other people here. Wei Wu wanted to stop Kong Xiangming, but it was already too late. The three students had seen everything. The one on me is very powerful. When it's hungry, I can't control it. Kong Xiangming's voice was calm. This was not the first time he had experienced something like this. It's fine if the three students see it. We'll deal with it together, but it's such a waste of this identity. A dog that bites does not bark. Wei Wu really did not expect Kong Xiangming, who rarely spoke, to be so ruthless. Fine, the one on me is hungry as well. There were blood vessels twisting on the back of Wei Wu's head. He turned around to look at the three students. To his surprise, the three students were not only not afraid, they had an, as expected, expression on their faces. They're not afraid. Wei Wu had no idea what the three students had been through. Compared to what they had seen, the monsters on the members of the Society of Strange Tales looked much cuter. I'll leave these three students to you. Kong Xiangming walked into the scenario of Western Zhujiang's private academy alone. In the darkness, one could see something crawling out from behind him. Seeing Kong Xiangming walk into the male dormitory alone, the three students had different expressions. Should we stop him? Li Shui did not have the heart to do that. Don't worry, these two are definitely actors at the haunted house. When a normal visitor saw someone dressed as a ghost inside a haunted house, their first reaction would be to assume that the person was an actor. Wang Yan struggled to stand up using the wall. He was so scared that he was about to cry, but his tone did not change that much. Rubbing his eyes, he stumbled toward Wei Wu. We're done playing. Please bring us out. The face on the back of Wei Wu's head was about to take shape, but when he heard what Wang Yan said, he forced himself to stop. You want me to bring you out? Yes, the three of us have surrendered. What is with this matter-of-fact tone? To complete the mission given by the Society of Strange Tales, Wei Wu had personally created many ghost stories. Whenever the victims saw his scary face, they would be scared out of their wits. Let's go. Wang Yan's legs were shaking. He held his head with one hand and reached out to grab Wei Wu's arm with the other. My head is spinning. Brother, please don't waste our time. We still have classes in the afternoon. Wei Wu tried to shake the man off, but he could not shake him off. Are you blind? Can't you see the bloody face behind my head? Can't you show some respect? Quote. We've already admitted defeat. What else do you want? Wang Yan felt wronged in his heart. He had lost a lot of face today. Wei Wu felt like something was wrong. He realized that these three students were not acting normally. He decided to stop wasting time and make his move. I'm afraid you won't be able to leave this place. The blood vessels at the back of his head weaved to form a creepy face. The face's features were blurry, and the blood vessels pulsed. Slowly, it took on a resemblance to Wang Yan. Brother, can you stop with the fancy stuff? I'm already quite a character to be able to leave the hidden scenario alive. If you continue to waste my time, I'm going to give you a bad review. Wang Yan's head was still hurting. Feeling the warmth on Wei Wu's arm, he felt safe. What are you talking about? Wei Wu shoved Wang Yan to the side. The two faces maintained the same expression. His expression was dark. I wanted to give you a quick death, but now. The sound of wind came from the corridor. Wei Wu was halfway through his sentence when the face behind his head suddenly screamed. When Wei Wu turned to look, he saw a monster dressed in blood-red clothes and wielding a gigantic hammer. It was charging towards him, chasing after the rolling human head. Wei Wu's scalp went numb, and a strong sense of danger rose in his heart. Not good. He turned to run instinctively to meet up with Kong Xiongming, but the monster did not give him the chance. When Chen Ge appeared in Dr. Skullcracker's uniform, not only Wei Wu, but the three students were given a fright as well. They had no idea who Chen Ge was talking to, but at that moment, no one had the time to care about those details. Their survival instinct urged them to run for their lives. Yang Cheng, Li Shui, and Wei Wu squeezed together as they ran toward Western Zhujiang's private academy at the end of the corridor. Wait for me, Wang Yan, who was pushed to the ground by Wei Wu, screamed. His legs regained their strength, and he crawled up on his hands and knees. Why are you guys running after me? Wei Wu looked at Yang Cheng and Li Shui, who had rushed ahead of him, and he was both anxious and angry. Get lost. Don't block the way. Quote. The blood face at the back of his head screamed. In his memory, this was the first time the blood face had reacted so violently. Blood vessels appeared from the back of his head, and they followed Wei Wu's arm toward Li Shui, who was in front of him. He felt that his life was in danger, and he had to meet up with Kong Xiongming no matter what. Chen Ge, who chased after them with the hammer, narrowed his eyes. Yin-yang vision worked its best in the dark environment, and he could see the change that was happening to Wei Wu. It's you, the Society of Strange Tales. There was still some distance between him and Wei Wu, but the blood vessels were about to reach Li Shui. In a moment of desperation, Chen Ge grabbed the rolling human head on the ground. With the mannequin dumbfounded, he aimed it at the back of Wei Wu's head. Bang! The back of his head was hit by the human head, and the sudden impact caused Wei Wu, who was running, to lose his balance. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. The mannequin's head rolled to the side, and the blood face at the back of Wei Wu's head was a mess. The deafening sound stunned the three medical students beside them. Smashing a human head against another human head, even a stunt actor would not dare to do that. Trying to run, after being hit by the solid head, Wei Wu slowed down, and Chen Ge quickly closed the distance between them. The back of the head was smashed, and the bloody face was injured before it could display its abilities. Seeing this, Wei Wu did not dare to stay any longer. Get out of the way. Li Shui, who was running in front of him, could not dodge in time and was violently pushed away. Seeing this scene, Yang Cheng, who was standing in front of the glass door, was puzzled. That's not right. Isn't this guy an actor? How could he run faster than us? Could it be a sitcom? A few thoughts flashed through Yang Cheng's mind. Are we being set up? Could this scene have been rehearsed many times? Quote. Seeing Li Shui being pushed away, he was slightly angry. If this is a rehearsed scenario, then isn't that a little too disrespectful to the visitors? Wei Wu rushed over with a ferocious look on his face, but Yang Cheng did not make way for him. Instead, she deliberately blocked the door. If this is a performance, please stop. What you did earlier made me get lost. Blood vessels crawled out from under his skin and weaved on his cheeks. The underground scenario was very dark, so the change in Wei Wu's face did not attract Yang Cheng's attention, but it did not escape Chen Ge's yin-yang vision. His legs pushed, and Chen Ge charged forward. Before Wei Wu's attack reached Yang Cheng, he raised the hammer and slammed it down on Wei Wu's left arm. The sound of bones breaking echoed in the air. Including Wei Wu, all the visitors were petrified. This was especially so for Yang Cheng, who stood in front of Wei Wu. He was the closest, so he heard it the clearest. As a medical student, He could even tell from the sound that it was the humerus and the shoulder blade that connected it that were broken. Yang Cheng had forgotten what he was going to say, and his eyes were glazed over. With his arm gone, Wei Wu gritted his teeth until they bled. He used his remaining hand to push open the glass door and ran in. "You're asking for it. Where can you run to?" Chen Ge put down the hammer and turned to look at Yang Cheng. "Are you all right?" I'm fine." Yang Cheng shivered. If not for the fact that he was leaning against the wall, he would have collapsed to the ground. "It's good that you're fine. Normally, I'm very gentle, but the man is not a normal visitor. He's different from the rest of you." Chen Ge tried his best to explain. Earlier, he had rushed to stop Wei Wu because he was afraid that Wei Wu would hurt the visitors. "I understand. That big brother is an actor arranged by your haunted house, right?" Yang Cheng voiced his speculation. Actor. Chen Ge had no idea why Yang Cheng would come to such a conclusion. He thought about it and very honestly admitted it. "I can't believe you managed to see through it. The new actor is immature and was rough with you earlier. I apologize on his behalf." The three medical students looked at the hammer in Chen Ge's hands, and they could not believe their ears. How did this man manage to remain so calm and collected after beating someone up? "We don't mind," Yang Chen yelled in his heart. "Compared to us, you should be more worried about the actor who got hammered by you. That's enough. After we leave this place, go and find the uncle who sells the tickets. I'll give you a 20% discount." Chen Ge took out his phone to call Ji Feiyu. "Xiao Ji, stop blocking the door. Come in and send the visitors out." He had Ji Feiyu block the door earlier because he was afraid that the two people from Ghost Stories Society would escape. Now that the two had entered Western Zhujiang's private academy, it was a dead end, so there was no need to block the door anymore. Block the door. The three students were covered in cold sweat. They felt like they would not be able to use the 20% discount in the future. "The three of you wait here. The workers are here to pick you up. I'll go in and help you vent your anger." Chen Ge waved the hammer. "As a service worker, the visitors will always be my priority." As if sensing the murderous aura around Chen Ge, Yang Cheng quickly said, No. We're really fine. It's not easy for us, so you don't need to help us anymore." Quote. "Yes, actually, that old man is not a bad person." Wang Yan also walked over. He looked at Chen Ge, not daring to get too close. He grumbled internally, "At least he looks friendlier than you do. You don't need to help him. He has to be punished for his mistake." Chen Ge opened the glass door. The three students felt like this had something to do with them, so they shouted from outside the scenario. "Big brother, we're really fine." Quote. "Punishment is punishment, but you've already cracked his bones. We've already felt your sincere apology, so please let him live." A strange smell floated in the air. Hearing the shouting behind him, Chen Ge could not help but sigh. These visitors sure are polite. No wonder they're students from Western Zhujiang's medical university. They're even helping the person who bullied them. Strange noises kept coming from Western Zhujiang's private academy, and the stench in the air seemed to have lightened. So, they're evenly matched. Looks like these two members of the Society of Strange Tales are quite powerful. Chen Ge picked up his pace. He did not see Wei Wu along the way. The poor man was probably scared out of his wits because he had run into the deepest part of the scenario. "Even if I run, where can I run to? This scenario is completely sealed, and there is only one exit." The members of the Society of Strange Tales had come to cause trouble at the haunted house when it was open for business, and this gave Chen Ge a strong sense of danger. If he did not uproot the Society of Strange Tales, they would come back to cause trouble in the future. Therefore, when Chen Ge saw them earlier, he decided to kill them. After walking for another 10 meters, Chen Ge finally saw the two parties who were fighting. Kong Shangming's face was dark, and there was a thin shadow standing on his shoulders. However, this shadow was much stronger than the ones that Chen Ge had seen at the third sick hall. Perhaps because it had stayed on many innocent people, the shadow on Kong Shangming was about 4 meters long, and there were many crying human faces carved on its stomach. It looked like a centipede. Facing this monster was a mannequin with a rope around its neck. The mannequin's body had many obvious wounds, but it still charged at the shadow again and again. The more ferocious the soul, the better it tastes. Kong Xiangming looked at the mannequin with amusement in his eyes. The monster on his shoulders did not pay attention to the mannequin but looked cautiously in another direction. The stench that enveloped the whole of Western Zhujiang's private academy coalesced into a ball of shadow and morphed into a large fatty. The fatty's face was blurry. Even though he was strong, his body was heavy, and he could not move freely in the narrow corridor. The fatty and the mannequin lacked combat experience, and under Kong Xiangming's command, the thin shadow managed to ambush them multiple times. Gradually, the wounds on the mannequin and the fatty increased. Their bodies started to fade, and the foul odor in the scenario started to disappear. So weak. Chen Ge thought about it and realized that it was understandable. Most of the strong specters at Western Zhujiang's private academy had already been consumed by Zhang Ya, and only these two who were relatively weak had survived. Wei Wu hid behind Kong Xiangming. When the bloody face on the back of his head saw Chen Ge from afar, he immediately screamed. "Be careful, the target of this mission is behind us." Quote. Kong Xiangming wasn't at a disadvantage even though he was fighting 1 against 2. However, it didn't mean that he didn't feel pressured. After being urged by Wei Wu, he suddenly felt a little overwhelmed. "Why did you lure him here?" Kong Xiangming's voice was barely calm, but he spoke much faster. "I don't want to either. Why don't we swap? You deal with him, and I'll help you deal with these 2 evil ghosts." Quote. The blood face on the back of Wei Wu's head had a special power. Like the pen spirit, it was not used for combat, and Kong Xiangming knew that. Okay. This was not the first time that the two had cooperated. They leaned back to back and turned their bodies. Blood vessels crawled out from the back of Wei Wu's head, and the expression on the blood face slowly turned to that of the hanging man. Strangely enough, when the blood face turned to look at the mannequin who had been agitated suddenly quieted down, and his eyes slowly turned hollow. Wei Wu stabilized the mannequin, but he was helpless against the fatty formed from the stench. He could only watch as the fatty's body slowly recovered, and the stench in the scenario thickened. After leaving his back to his teammate, Kong Xiangming and the thin shadow on his shoulder turned to look at Chen Ge. Wearing the bloodied Dr. Skullcracker's uniform, a sewn human skin mask, and the hammer, Chen Ge's appearance made Kong Xiangming speechless. The words that he used to say to his victims when he was creating his ghost stories did not seem appropriate at that moment. Compared to the monster before him, he looked more normal. "Actually, we can talk about this." Kong Xiangming wasn't thinking about this sentence, but his mouth said it naturally. "We didn't mean any harm. We were just instructed by someone." Chen Ge did not say anything. The man had survived for so long in a mental organization like the Society of Strange Tales, so he could not trust a word that came out of his mouth. He raised the hammer. Perhaps Kong Xiangming was telling the truth, but Chen Ge did not dare take the risk, and there was no need for him to. "It's not too late to make a move after you've thought it through. I know you've entered the world behind the door. I can tell you a secret about the door, but you have to promise me one thing." Kong Xiangming felt something was wrong, and he sped up. "This is a rare opportunity. We can work together, but you only need to promise me one thing. That is my bottom line." Bottom line. Chen Ge took 1 step forward, and his footsteps suddenly sped up. "You're asking me for something inside my haunted house. Looks like you still don't understand the value of life." Shu Yin. Following Chen Ge's call, a boy who was covered in wounds and had a dark expression on his face appeared beside him. The man and the ghost charged at Kong Xiangming at the same time. The corner of Kong Xiangming's mouth twitched, and he suddenly realized a problem. The slender ghost could stop the evil spirits, but who could stop the madman with the sledgehammer? So painful. With 4 limbs on the ground, blood leaked out from the wounds that could not be healed. With a twisted face, Shu Yin leapt at the thin shadow with hatred and anger. The thin shadow was much more powerful than Chen Ge expected. The human faces on its chest started to wail. Shu Yin slowed down, and the shadow's hands gripped his neck tightly. The human faces on its chest started to tear at Shu Yin's shirt. The thin shadow used the human faces on its body to suppress Shu Yin for a short period of time, but the problem was that it was being held back by Shu Yin, and there was no one left to protect Kong Xiangming. Chen Ge, who had fought with the thin shadow at the third sick hall, knew its weakness. After this kind of ghost left its host, its power would drop by at least 1/3, so Chen Ge's target was not the thin shadow. Wait a minute, the hammer whipped up a gust of wind, and Kong Xiangming's face was pale. In this moment of danger, he could only order the thin shadow to ignore Shu Yin and focus on protecting him. The monster understood the urgency of the situation, so it let go of Shu Yin and stood before Kong Xiangming. Without the restraint, after Shu Yin landed on the ground, he leapt at the thin shadow at an even faster speed and bit at the shadow's neck. The more he ate, the darker the blood on his shirt became. At the same time, the hammer landed on the thin shadow. Chen Ge did not wait for the shadow's reaction and did not give Kong Xiangming a chance to speak. He raised the hammer and kept on swinging it. Kong Xiangming was still holding on, but Wei Wu behind him could not hold on any longer. The hanging doll was controlled by Wei Wu, but he could not do anything to the shadow formed by foul odor. If we stay here any longer, we'll all die here. Oh, Kong, be careful. Even Chen Ge did not react to Wei Wu's sudden action, much less Kong Xiangming. From the beginning until now, it has been your teammates who have been under pressure. Why would you be the first to run? Quote. Wei Wu, surrounded by 3 ghosts and a madman, Kong Xiangming's eyes were bloodshot. He did not expect Wei Wu to abandon him so easily. In the blink of an eye, Wei Wu had already run several meters away. Chen Ge had the 2 ghosts keep Kong Xiangming busy while he and Shu Yin chased after the man. Xiao Jiyu has already opened the door. We cannot let this man escape. When Chen Ge chased after Wei Wu, the 3 medical students had already disappeared, and Chen Ji's last worry disappeared. Stop struggling, you won't be able to escape. Hearing the voice that sounded like it was calling his soul, Wei Wu ran even faster. The face on the back of his head kept screaming like it was urging him to run faster. The distance between the 2 increased, and Chen Ge did not have a good solution. He was carrying the hammer, so he did not have an advantage in running. The only reason he was able to keep up with the man was because he had better stamina. Wei Wu swung both of his arms, and his mind was filled with the voice telling him to run faster. He remembered the location of the exit, and after running past several forks, a glimmer of hope lit up in his heart. I cannot fall into his hands. Come on, I'll be able to escape. Quote. Running out from the well, Wei Wu did not slow down, but when he was about to move forward, he suddenly realized that more than 10 mannequins had run out from the dark corridor. Yes, there were more than 10 of them. Aren't they supposed to be in the classroom? Why are they here? Quote. Their arms were crossed, their bodies were askew, and their faces were all smiling at Wei Wu, causing him to feel a chill down his spine. Why, every time he wanted to go in a certain direction, there would always be countless people and things blocking his way. It had already happened several times today. Charging forward, Wei Wu crashed into the crowd of people. When the mannequins toppled over, many arms tugged at his clothes. If it was another time, he could use the bloody face behind his head to slowly break free, but the problem was that Chen Ge was right behind him. At the last moment before Wei Wu fell, he turned back to look at Chen Ge. The ghastly hammer reminded him of his first ghost story creation. In the past, I also chased after innocent people like this. Bang! His other arm also fell limply, and a huge force smashed Wei Wu to the ground. Without giving him a chance to resist, Shu Yin jumped on his back and stabbed his hands into the back of his head, digging out the bloody face. Screams echoed inside the haunted house. After dealing with Wei Wu, Chen Ge dragged him to the side. The bloody face on Wei Wu's body was torn apart by Shu Yin, and the blood became the mannequin's food. Not bad, very intelligent. Chen Ge was never stingy with his praise, and he felt like the mannequins were very happy. Bringing Shu Yin with him, Chen Ge returned to Western Zhujiang's private academy. The thin shadow on Kong Xiangming's body had hurt many normal people before, and it was ridiculously powerful. There were multiple human faces overlapping on its stomach, and it was not at a disadvantage when facing 3 baleful specters alone. Unfortunately, This battle was not a battle between two ghosts. When the thin shadow stabilized the situation, Chen Ge was already chasing after Kong Xiongming with the hammer. Save me, save me, quote. Similar noises kept echoing throughout the scene. The slender shadow could not split itself into two. After Kong Xiongming was smashed to the ground, it was forced to leave Kong Xiongming's body and prepared to escape on its own. After being tricked by Wei Wu, Chen Ge was fully prepared. 3 baleful specters leapt at it at the same time to tie it down. Several minutes later, the thin shadow was consumed by the 3 baleful specters, and Kong Xiongming, who had a symbiotic relationship with it, fainted and lost consciousness. The black phone didn't give any notification, so these two aren't patients from the 3rd sick hall. Chen Ge looked at the specters who were greedily eating and mumbled to himself, only 7 left. The thin shadow was soon consumed, and the fatty, foul odor hugged his stomach. When he wiggled his body around, he realized that Chen Ge had been watching him, and he panicked. He quickly dispersed and turned into the stench that covered the whole scenario. Am I that scary? Chen Ge looked in another direction. The hanging doll was even more shameless. After it finished eating, it lay on the ground as if nothing had happened. The 2 baleful specters at Western Zhujiang's private academy only consumed a small portion, probably because they were worried about Chen Ge's presence. Most of the thin shadow's body was consumed by Xu Yin, and this time, Chen Ge saw an obvious change on him. There was a large blood stain on Xu Yin's shirt, and the blood stain was spreading. A red specter. Chen Ge knew that a red specter was scarier than a normal specter, but he had no idea how a red specter came to be. 1/3 of Xu Yin's shirt is dyed red. A normal specter can slowly morph into a red specter. He looked at the hanging doll on the ground and compared it to Xu Yin. He had a feeling that things were not that simple. It should be because a small number of specters have the potential to morph into a red specter. Chen Ge had come to this conclusion after careful consideration. He had encountered many specters, but other than Zhang Ya, only Xu Yin, who was dominated by resentment, had the potential to morph into a red specter. That might not be the case. If there's a chance in the future, I can use the other specters at the haunted house to experiment. In his mind, he imagined Xiao Xiao in a red dress, baring her fangs and brandishing her claws, and silently shook his head. Even if she turns into a red specter, she will still be bullied. I should try using the pen spirit. When Chen Ge finished thinking, he realized that Xu Yin had returned to his normal self. His head was lowered, and his eyes were cold like everything in the world had lost its color when reflected in his eyes. Taking out the recorder, Chen Ge walked toward Xu Yin. He was about to speak when Xu Yin, who sensed his approach, disappeared. The tape stopped, but the blood on it deepened. Looks like I'll need more communication. Chen Ge knew the source of Xu Yin's pain, but he had done everything he could. The rest depended on Xu Yin himself. Dragging Kong Xiongming out of Western Zhujiang's private academy, Chen Ge walked to the spot where Wei Wu had been knocked out. From afar, he saw Ji Feiyu standing in the middle of the junction with a flashlight. The boy was worried about Wei Wu's safety and wanted to help Wei Wu up, but he was afraid when he saw the pile of mannequins. He paced back and forth, not daring to move forward. Seeing Chen Ge in Dr. Skullcracker's uniform, Ji Feiyu instinctively took a step back. After a few seconds, he realized that was not a good move, so he quickly replied, I've already sent it out. The 3 students gave it a 5-star review right in front of me. They said they had a great time, and they hope you won't trouble the actor. Happy. Chen Ge nodded. As long as they're happy. Brother Chen, what happened to the 2 visitors? They fainted. Are they okay? Ji Feiyu asked hesitantly. And what about the haunted house actor that the students mentioned? Quote, it's nothing. You'll have to get used to this when you work at my haunted house. By the way, you'll need to learn some first aid knowledge in the future. Chen Ge had Ji Feiyu carry Wei Wu and Kong Xiongming. Lock them in the dressing room first. Quote, first aid knowledge. Lock them in the dressing room. Ji Feiyu's forehead was covered in cold sweat. How come it felt like he had entered a black shop? They're not visitors. Chen Ge knew that Xiao Jiyu had misunderstood, so he explained, New Century Park has reorganized itself and is tied to our haunted house for a big promotion. However, Some people don't want to see us rise again, so they sent people to cause trouble. So, that's why. Xiao Jiyu nodded seriously. The water in a big city shore runs deep. Xiao Jiyu carried Wei Wu, and Chen Ge dragged Kong Xiongming. They walked to the last classroom before stopping. There are 2 more visitors inside the haunted house. They should be in the scenario on the right. Stay here and don't move. I'll be back soon. Chen Ge dropped Kong Xiongming and rushed to the female dormitory. Ji Yu Feiyu stood outside the classroom alone, feeling like someone was watching him. Brother Chen, I'll go with you. Entering the corridor on the right, they could hear the argument from far away. The visitor called Na Na had a fiery temper, and she insisted on breaking up with the male visitor. Her anger had gotten the better of her, and she did not think the surroundings were that scary. What are they doing? Arguing inside a haunted house. Quote. The 2 visitors stood in the middle of the corridor. There were no scary spots nearby, but they were arguing fiercely, and there was no sign of them stopping. Brother, slow down. Ji Yu Feiyu dragged the 2 members of the Society of Strange Tales over. What are you doing here? I was worried about you, so I wanted to come and help. Ji Yu Feiyu looked ahead and changed the topic. Those 2 are arguing quite loudly. Should we go over and calm them down? Even an upright official can't resolve a family dispute. What's there to advise? Chen Ge swung the hammer. He felt that the members of the Society of Strange Tales were more pleasing to the eye. At least if he was not happy with them, he could smash them with the hammer. Look at how fiercely they are arguing. Will something happen? After all, this is our haunted house, and it won't be good if word of this gets out. Ji Yu Feiyu stood behind Chen Ge. It was not nice of him to watch people argue inside the haunted house. Haven't our haunted house had enough accidents? Chen Ge wanted to retort, but to not give the new employee too much pressure, he resisted the urge. If these 2 really wanted to break up, they wouldn't have stayed here for half an hour. Taking out the human skin mask, Chen Ge put it back on, raised the hammer, and walked toward the couple. Before he got close, he saw the woman push the man away and crawl into the room where the pen spirit was and close the door. The man banged on the door, and the woman's crying came from inside the room, but she refused to open the door. Yan Nana. The woman locked the door and windows from the inside. The man stood outside the window and called for her, but the woman seemed to have made up her mind to end this relationship. Chen Zimin, we met at a haunted house, so how about we end things here today? 2 years, 6 months, and 1 day. Thank you for all the good things you've brought me. Quote. I really don't understand why you want to break up with me. Have I not treated you well? Quote. You don't have to question me. It's all my fault, okay. The argument escalated again. Chen Ge could not take it anymore. He dragged the hammer and walked faster and faster. Footsteps came, and the man outside the door saw Chen Ge. Honestly, he was afraid, but he was in the heat of the moment, and his anger covered up his fear. Realizing that Chen Ge did not know what to do, he even had the intention to turn his anger on Chen Ge. Pointing at Chen Ge, the man's lips opened, but before he could say anything, Chen Ge suddenly picked up speed. He charged forward and swung the hammer at the door lock. Wood splinters flew everywhere, and the lock behind the door flew out. It slammed into the wall with a loud bang. The arguing couple was stunned, especially the man who was about to speak. The wind from the hammer seemed to have brushed past his lips. His mouth was wide open. The man looked at Chen Ge's face, and his eyelids fluttered. He felt like he was losing control of his body. The woman couldn't care less about crying and let out a scream. The man wanted to enter the dormitory, but his legs were weak, and his ears were ringing. He took a step forward, and his body fell forward. Citizen. The woman hugged the man's shoulders, and she stood before the man to protect him. Pulling the hammer out from the hole in the door, Chen Ge felt slightly awkward. He had been hitting people too many times recently, and his strength seemed to have increased. He coughed dryly and removed the skin mask. Looking at the 2 shocked visitors, before they recovered from their anger, he said, when you were in danger, your husband's first thought was not to run but to enter the room to find you. This shows how much he cares about you. Chen Ge turned to the man who had fallen. When you fell to the ground, your wife ran over to hug you and protect you. You'll regret it for the rest of your life if you miss a woman like her. Walking into the room, the blood fluttered in the wind. Chen Ge helped the two stunned visitors up with a smile. You love each other. No matter what happens, that's enough. Chen Ge placed the hammer to the side. If you don't trust each other, we can play a little game. The two visitors' limbs were cold. For some reason, they were arranged by Chen Ge to sit on either side of the chair. Their fingers were crossed, and they were holding a ballpoint pen that was covered in tape. This haunted house has been open for many years, and some things have gained sentience. This ballpoint pen is one of them. You can use it to ask the question that you want to know the most, and it will give you the answer. The couple had just recovered from the shock of Chen Ge breaking through the door. They looked into each other's eyes and felt the warmth of each other's palms. After a long time, they finally started the pen spirit game. Pen spirit, you're my previous life, and I'm your current life. Can you tell me if I'm the person that he or she loves the most? Chen Ge's teeth ached from listening to them. He kept hinting at the pen spirit to send these two away as soon as possible. Several seconds later, the ballpoint pen in their palms started to move, and the two visitors saw the surprise in each other's eyes. The tip of their nose landed on the paper, and they wrote the word, yes. After sending the pen spirit away, the game ended, but the two visitors did not let go of each other. My people, the woman apologized softly, and the man hugged her. I'll definitely stay by your side in the future. I should have been more understanding. It's fine, honey. Are you two done? Veins popped on the back of Chen Ge's hand that gripped the hammer. He felt like he was losing control of himself. Boss, I'm so sorry to have caused you so much trouble. The two visitors finally separated. They apologized and thanked Chen Ge. If not for the fact that you two met at my haunted house, I wouldn't have bothered. Chen Ge put the hammer away. Have a good life. Don't regret it after we part ways. Yes, of course. Watching the two leave, Xiao Jiyu was shocked. When he saw Chen Ge break down the door, he had taken out his phone to call the police. He did not expect this to happen. Brother Chen, you're amazing. How did you do that?